Let's talk about branding. As a speaker, how do you brand yourself? This is the Diary of a Speaker podcast, and I'm your host, Anthony Morore. At this podcast, we have speakers who come and share with us their stories of how they became speakers, how they are advancing, and share tips and ideas on how to grow your speaking business. Also, how to to work on your craft as a speaker. And today we have a special guest who's going to be here with us. She's spoken for more than 20 years and is good at branding. And let's just welcome our guest today, Victoria Pelletier. Here we are. Hi, Victoria.
Hi, Anthony. Happy to be here.
Yes, welcome to Diary of a Speaker. And we are
Thank
glad
you.
that you're here. Where are you tuned in from?
I am in Southern Florida in Miami Beach.
That's wonderful. And how's the weather there? It's a bit hot here. Just got hot suddenly where I
Uh,
am.
well, unfortunately, depending on your perspective, it's always hot here. The summers here are brutal, in more because the humidity goes up to like 90%. And so it's like stifling when you walk out the door.
Okay. And maybe it's a place that if it's good, if it's that way all the year round, that's a place to be because I hear some other parts of the US, people are shouting, complaining of the weather. So I guess yours is a good one.
Well, I'm originally from Canada, so I know the opposite weather. I know cold.
Okay.
I do miss having 4 distinct seasons, which we don't have here. We've got hot, really hot, and hurricane season.
Mhm.
But I did escape the cold and the snow, so I never have to shovel again unless I go back home and visit family.
How often is that? I mean, how often do you go back?
Um, Probably not enough, and sadly, a little less now that my husband's dad passed away. My husband's from Quebec City, which is a very, very cold part of Canada.
Mhm.
Uh, so we used to go back to Quebec alone a couple times a year. Both my children are living back in Canada, one in Ottawa and one in Toronto, which is where they grew up and where I'm from. So probably only a couple times a year. It's a lot easier for me to fly them down here.
Mm. Now, let's go back to that time where you were growing up, and we like hearing stories of young people growing up and the things that they go through. How was your childhood like?
Mm, that's a long story. So I actually don't have a very great childhood.
Mm.
I'm born to a drug addicted teenage mother who is very abusive to me. Fortunately, I was adopted out of that environment into a family who loved me very much. I'm the only child. I remained the only child, so my mom and my dad, but lower socioeconomic position, and so there was never tons of money, no vacations, not that kind of thing, and continued to have a little bit of challenge and adversity that came my way. I do think all of that formulated and formed a big part of who I am, how I show up, the resilience that I've built. And since we're here talking about public speaking, it's given me many topics to share, and one of which is around resilience and what qualifies me, to talk about resilience and kind of the lessons that I've learned. So, not a great childhood. Although I am very thankful for my adoptive mother who passed away many years ago, but was a really amazing woman who, took me out of a pretty horrible environment and just loved me.
Mm. Yeah, and they say that the things that we go through in life could form our big story. They can become books, they can become speeches that inspire people and impact the world in their own special way. So we get it when you say that part or maybe most of what you went through during your childhood has impacted you and made you who you are right now. How did you get started on public speaking? Because it's not everybody that becomes a public speaker despite going through the challenges that you went through, or even any other lifestyle. How did you get started on public speaking?
It's really interesting. I think it actually started my comfort being on stages, anyways, with the fact that my mom put me into modeling, which led its way into me doing acting.
Mm-hmm.
As a teenager, I hit my height at a very early age. I was also much more introverted, so my mom, put me into modeling initially to help kind of break me out of that shell a little bit. And then when I went into high school, I already was able to leverage that a little bit, and I joined, the drama club. And I'm fortunate that I won the drama award when I was graduating school, and I also participated in the debate club. So I'm a bit of a geek. I was, on the honor roll for my marks and did debating, but then I was also the cool kid for being part of the drama club. So that gave me confidence to speak on stages. And then the more professional realm of that came from being in the business world. I became an executive at a very early age. I was just 24 years old when I got recruited into the world of kind of outsourcing and the world of B2B professional services, where we participated in a lot of conferences. And so I started speaking from a business standpoint 20 something years ago, exclusively for business, and then monetized it as I started to become much more well known and started to speak on a variety of different topics as a paid professional speaker for myself about 12 years ago.
And it's good that you had that experience of being in the drama club and also in the debating club at school. It's just the other day that I was thinking, hey, when did I first become a public speaker? Because sometimes uh, we come to think of that day that we stood up in a speaking club, or maybe we were given our first speech at an event as the first day that we spoke. But looking back, I think I started to become a public speaker way in primary school when I was asked a question and asked to stand in front of a class and give an answer. Um, and at what point did you think that is first and foremost, before we even go there, you were in business and then you're a speaker, and that's how you picked it from business. What is your main thing right now? Do you just focus on speaking? Are you still in business? What kind of business are you doing?
I have very consciously made my speaking business not full time.
Okay.
There's a phrase called having a portfolio career, and many people towards the end of their careers of their traditional corporate environment or entrepreneurial journey move into having a portfolio career, and that's a mix of a few different things. That's usually sitting on boards or volunteer work, if they choose to do a little bit of coaching or consulting, and public speaking for some of us. So I
Mhm.
actually have a very robust portfolio career now, and I've been asked by many why that isn't all that I do. And I don't want it currently to be all that I do. I am only 48 years old, and I don't have a problem as a woman talking about my age. I have a long runway from a corporate standpoint still. I'd love to end my traditional corporate career as the CEO of a publicly traded company. So I'm putting that out there,
Mhm.
manifesting that. I'm currently working as the chief operating officer for a green energy company. That's actually at the intersection of blockchain and cryptocurrency as well. So pretty cool and exciting. They're a startup, so I came on contract. We'll see if I stay there long term, because I'm generally used to running much, much larger, more established businesses. So
Mhm.
that's how I get paid. But I also think right now, if I did it full time, because I love doing it, yes, I get paid to do it.
Mhm.
But if it was all I did, I think I would love it a little bit less, and the hustle of chasing it down. So it's my part time for now, and will stay there. And maybe once I hit that CEO of a publicly traded company, I'll be way more in demand. And when I retire, that could become full time. But for now, it's not.
And what was your first paid one? The first paid gig? How was it?
I decided to make, the leap into asking for money, and it's funny, Anthony, because I am such a strong negotiator in business. And
Mm-hmm.
I also have this philosophy of you don't ask, you don't get. My
Yeah.
children have learned that very well. And I started to get asked to do more and more speeches outside of my day job, if you will, or to go into different environments. And I was like, why am I not charging for this? So I remember it was for um, a former client of mine who asked me to come and speak to one of their employee resource groups. And so that was the first time I made the ask. And it's funny, I'm a good negotiator for business and for others. That first time negotiating for myself for speaking, I was like, I was nervous about doing it. And now, I mean, there's great comfort in doing it. And now I actually coach others on how to negotiate for themselves.
Mm-hmm. I I mean, people imagine this. This is people who have not spoken before, people who have not charged for a gig, speaking gig before. I go there, I stand up for 30 minutes, and I get paid how much? Maybe I asked for a day's uh, a laborer's job. I mean, wage for a day, and they don't have a clue of how to judge. And then they hear someone that stood on stage for half an hour and was paid in thousands, and they're like, "What? How? What can I look for, or what would someone who's listening to this broadcast have an idea of how much to charge? Am I going to charge a minimum wage, minimum that a worker, a laborer is paid, or what? How do I go about that to just get the price right?
So I think, and I do coach some people on speaking on their. It's generally much more around personal branding, but for those who choose to go down the speaking path, I will talk about this. And I think the pricing strategy depends on a number of different things. And so when you're just starting out and gaining experience, most of the time you're not going to get paid. So I will tell people you also need to have a speaker reel, so people who will pay for you can see how you perform on stage, how do you engage, what's some of the content. And so a lot of those early speaking engagements are not paid. And so I encourage people to look to whether it's colleges, universities, not for profits, chamber of commerce. Those are all easier, in air quotes, opportunities to get to build your experience, start to build a speaker reel first. And then next, when you step into the realm of being able to charge, as I said, there's various factors. What are you? There's a million and one motivational speakers. And yes, you can get paid for those. But I want people to always think about it's what experience and story you bring to the table. That actually
Mhm.
can dictate how much you can charge and also how engaging of a speaker you are. So I generally actually stay and I do a lot of work with other like business executives. And for most of them, I say, assuming they've got some talent and skill and good content, they shouldn't ask for anything less than $5,000 in the US. I'm originally, as I said, from Canada. I actually find the prices harder to achieve. I was actually just talking to another speaker the other day. Like there's more opportunity here and typically higher fees. But then the other things are you a subject matter expert in a particular field in which you're paying for that knowledge and the years of experience? Um, Also, and this is very important, should be important around the world, but really need in North America, I see it. There's also an added element of, are you a diverse speaker? And so there, many event organizers are looking to make sure they've got diversity, at least in terms of gender, if not race and other elements as well. And then also your influencer status, or your followers. Are you a micro influencer? Do you have 10,000 followers? Do you have 50? Do you have 100? All of those are things that allow you to charge more.
Okay, that's a good one. And maybe now going deeper into branding, are there some is there a list that you would give someone who is looking forward to brand himself as a speaker and maybe attract those higher fees so that he can take it as a full-time occupation or something like that?
So I wrote a book on personal branding, in large part because I've now been doing it for a very long time. I don't think I had the language to call it personal branding. When I look back, I realized I was doing it 20 something years ago when I stepped into that first executive role and needed to distinguish myself, the team, and the business. It
Mm-hmm.
started back then. And so, what I'm going to share in terms of how you need to think about personal branding isn't significantly different for a speaker than it is as I would, coach someone from a business standpoint, the way that they show up on LinkedIn and beyond. So for me, personal brand consists of like 4 foundational elements. The first is your subject matter expertise, or the what you do, the knowledge you bring, and potentially who you do that for, or for what industry you do that in. So
Mm-hmm.
that's how most people, um, they think that's their brand. That's just like, it's important, but the other pieces, and this is what needs to shine. It's much more about storytelling. Next one is, who are you as a human? It is the storytelling. What lived in life experiences do you have? What are your interests, passions, and values? Then the next piece, and it's somewhat related, is what makes you different from others. So
Mm-hmm.
here is one, and this, when you talk about what makes you different, think about the audience and what you're trying to attract. So here's where, for a speaker, then as you show up online, and in real life, start to get clear on that message of differentiation. Like, why would they hire you versus this other speaker? So it can be how many times speeches you've given. It can be the testimonials you've gotten from, how engaging you are. Again, going back to thought leadership or expertise that you have. So what makes you different? And then the last thing related to branding is, what do you want to be known for? And so thinking about legacy and impact. So for
Mm-hmm.
me, I can tell you, with all of my business expertise, and I've done a ton of mergers and acquisitions and turnarounds of business, that is not what I want them talking about when I die. That's not what I want to be known for. And so thinking about those 4 pieces all together is what I, would advise people in crafting their brand identity. And then there's a whole other piece, and I've already been encouraged to write a follow-on book to the one I did that says how to do it. Like, where do you do it? Like, what's the content strategy and all those things. That's pretty complex and depends on what your goals and objectives and who your audience is.
Hmm. Now, when you say that you train speakers, how do you go about that? Do you have a, how do you do it? Is,
Well, I will say it's actually normally inbound only. I don't, for those who will go to my website, it's predominantly for my thought leadership and my speaking and my books. I don't advertise that I do it. So most of the time you have to be referred to me directly for me to coach you. And I normally only have a handful of clients at a time. And that's because I have a day job and a portfolio career. So I want to make sure I do all well. So I don't want to do a disservice by taking on too many people. So for speaking, so I recently did, and this one actually I did for free, but was part of this executive network that I belong to. There's a bunch of people who want to become public speakers.
mm-hmm.
So in this case, I hosted a free like Zoom event where I called it sort of Public Speaking 201, thinking, college or university courses. I'm assuming you're a speaker. Let's talk about, how do you monetize it? What are the things that are required in terms of a speaker one page, a website, having a speaker reel? Where can you go to find opportunities beyond landing with a speakers bureau who represents you? So I offered that all and all the resources for free to my network. And then I have some people who, reached out to me for a deep landing, like speaking engagements to, I actually have a team that I work with that will help with building speaker reels and doing the speaker, bios and one pages and that kind of thing. So it can be that, or it can actually be working on the personal brand identity as it's connected to you as a speaker.
What would you say has been the most significant uh, that has attracted the clients that come to you? Because now you tell us you don't advertise, you haven't been going out there. I mean, that's something that makes people come after you or come to you and say, hey, we'd like you to come to our event and come to our company or things like that. So what's that specific or the main thing?
It's two things. I do have a very strong brand, and so people have approached me. Like there was a former colleague of mine when I used to work for Accenture who came to me, and she was thinking about her portfolio career. She was looking to leave, and she said, are you open? Do you do any coaching?" And so it's because how strong I built my brand, sitting on boards, speaking, all of these pieces, that she just asked me if I would be open to coach. So that is just a result of the strength of my brand. And then also those who've seen me speak, a majority of it is word of mouth. And so, and sometimes, as much as I get paid, as I said, I will do some free, whether it's like lunch and learns or Zoom calls, or I will, offer some. So I'm actually delivering for a woman in my women's executive network. She runs a whole executive network for those that are product officers, chief product officers, and she wants some help on. So I'm going to come and deliver a session on personal branding. And so as a result of that, I tend to get results, for people who go, "Oh my God, that was like so insightful. Do you offer any coaching or services?"
Mm-hmm.
And then if I have capacity, and we'll explore, but I'm not a fit for everyone. Like one of the things that makes me uniquely different is my radical candor. So whether you come to me for executive or career coaching or personal brand coaching, I'm going to push you hard. I'm going to ask you tough questions. So I always make sure when people approach me, like, let's talk about how we work together and talk about my style. Might make you uncomfortable. But that's actually how I currently have 5 clients. And that for now, that's the max I can do. And they all came to me from word of mouth.
And how do you get on TV? I think you've been on TV.
A lot. Yes. Yes, yes.
How do you get there?
I'm media trained. And so I've been put in situations in the past for the companies I worked for. People had seen me speak. Actually, I was sad to give it up when I moved back to the US from Canada, but I was a regular guest on one of the national news channels. They had a weekend business panel. So we would talk about like the top news headlines from, the week in business and finance. And so that just came about because I was referred to the producers directly by people who knew me and had seen me before. And I will state that you can certainly hire a publicist who will help you with that, but they are incredibly expensive. For the good ones, anyways.
They could be quite expensive. I think maybe we cannot even exhaust the places that you've been, because I also discovered that you have also done a TEDx. Maybe many or just one?
I did. It will be live on the TED platform very soon. I just saw the edited video, and I had always wanted to do it. I actually want to be on the main TED stage, but I was always kind of waiting for them to come to me. I don't know. Maybe that I don't think I have a huge ego, but was part of it. Like I want them to find me, and so actually, TEDx Miami happens to be in my hometown, which is great. Invited me to speak and be the opening speaker for the event, which was last month. And so I hope to do more. But a goal for me is definitely to be on the main TED stage, like the likes of, Simon Sinek and Adam Grant and Brene Brown and all of those.
Yeah. So did they actually come to you, or did you make a move here and there?
No, they did actually come to me.
They came to you. Okay, so it works. So personal branding works.
Very much so. Very much so.
Yeah. So to everybody who is listening to this podcast, this is just an example of how personal branding works, as being told by Victoria, and is through her example that she shared with us, and therefore go and work on your brand. And if you'd like to get some help or more ideas on how to work on your brand, you can always reach out to Victoria, because she knows how. How do they do that if they want to get to reach you?
So the best place, the one-stop shop, if you will, is my website, which is Victoria dash or hyphen Pelletier.com. And thank you for putting that up to make it easy for everyone. And from there, if they want to connect out on the various different social platforms, whether it's Facebook or Instagram or LinkedIn, they can do that. And then also, if they want to just educate a little bit more, go deeper into the topics of personal branding, I do have a book that I wrote called Influence Unleashed, Forging a Lasting Legacy Through Personal Branding, that can be found on actually everywhere from Amazon. I tend to listen to most of my books now. So it's on Audible, it's on Spotify, like you can find it anywhere, or also on my website, you can get it.
Yeah, I'm also currently listening to my books. I am finding it much easier. I mean, with all the busy schedules that we have, it's becoming harder and harder to sit down during the day and read through a book. So you go listening. What's in the future? Can we know from Victoria?
I have a second book this year coming out on the topic of leadership and culture. So that will be coming out in early fall. In a couple weeks, as I said, the TEDx talk will be coming out. So I encourage everyone to go and take a listen. It was only 11 minutes, so it's 11 minutes well spent. And like I'm looking for, I just stepped off of a board I'd been sitting on for 6 years, a fintech board, for my next board engagement. Although I do sit on a not-for-profit, so you will see that, and continue to see amazing things, hopefully on the business front.
And we are wishing you all the best in everything that you are doing.
Thanks, Anthony.
Yeah. Before you go, maybe mention to us some things that we should never forget. I mean, you shared much, but then there are those things that you maybe even not related to what we are speaking about, but there's something that you are always saying, hey, never ever forget this. What could that be for Victoria?
Um, I'm going to share one of my favorite quotes, and it's by George Adair. And he said, everything you've ever wanted lives on the other side of fear. And I love that, because I do think we need to lean into our discomfort. Otherwise, I think like the growth and the opportunity doesn't come for us. So whether that's in your professional lives, asking for a promotion, asking for the raise, applying for that job that you think maybe I don't have all the qualifications for, or as a speaker, getting comfortable asking for the first time to get paid, or looking to increase the tier in terms of how much you're going to charge. All of that can be incredibly uncomfortable. And even building your personal brand, figuring out that you're going to share some of these difficult stories because it makes you humanized, that can be uncomfortable for people. So I will leave your listeners with the fact that I think you need to lean into the things that scare you or make you uncomfortable so you can achieve great things.
How do you work on your fear to just get that what you want to go after?
Uh, I I think it's two things. So one, I think there's a little bit innately in certainly my DNA. When I think about fight or flight, I'm a fighter. I've always been a fighter. So like one, and that I sign a lot of my social media posts with hashtag unstoppable, and the other one's hashtag no excuses. So I think there's like innately there's something in me, and I'm competitive. But then I also think it's a little bit like a muscle as well, and you can build it. You can build resilience. You can, and a big part of that is getting comfortable with discomfort. And so I think you just work on it over time, and like going to the gym every day, or however with whatever frequency, you'll see that skill grow.
Wow, it's just a mindset. It's a mindset. Yes. So everything that you never want to be is on the other side of fear. Go for it. Become unstoppable like Victoria, and have no excuses. I think those are things that we need to adopt, so that we also go using them to work on our mindset, to know that we can work through fear. Maybe not overcome it, but work through fear and be the success that you would want. As they say, maybe public speaking is the biggest fear of all, even more than death itself. Uh, but if you are going to become a significant person, it's encouraged that you become a great speaker. Remember to brand yourself well. And once again, let's remind you that if you would want to connect with Victoria, go to www.victoria hash, or is that dash dash Pelletier.com, and yeah, get to find out more on how to brand yourself. If you'd like to subscribe to our podcast or newsletter, please go to diaryofaSpeaker.com, and let's keep speaking. Let's keep impacting. And that's all for today. We are glad to have had you, Victoria. Thank you very much once again.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, and until next time, all you speakers, keep speaking.